You're watching the Battered Fans Network.
The heroes are back. Being funky balls, rapping pink and black. Coming live from the 305, it's official tissue. The Battered Fan, Chris and Dan, weekly rocking with you. We talk Messi, Boosie, Jordy, Lucho, the Fat Four, to Ben Cram, Noah, Ruiz, Fred. What more could you ask for? Tighten up and get ready, listen in on the pod. Solana and X in Espanol, just to even the odds. Breakdowns and gas bagging, join the tribe and just vibe. Free 99, don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't hesitate, say what's up, go ahead and come in. No question about it, I'm ready to get hurt again.
No question about it, I am ready to get hurt again.
Chris, the Herons are back. Welcome, everybody, to episode number 348 of the Battle Herons podcast. I am your host, Daniel Granada, and alongside me, as always, Mr. KBD. How are you doing, sir?
I like the kit. You're looking nice with that.
Thank you. Got me a sample.
Yeah, nice. Look at that. You got your microphone shut off and everything. That's what happens like nowadays. Like you get the kit looking nice and shiny. We got the Knicks playing tonight. Like, what else can, be better?
But I want to be very clear. Inter Miami, don't come for me. We're not selling these on battlefans.com. I just got them. That's all we're gonna say. Just got them. But it is nice. It is very nice. It is a sample. I just hope that in the sample I got the numbers and letters are in white. I hope they do them in pink for the real one. But still nice. I think I like the baby blue with the pink.
Oh yeah, super dope.
All right. So we're here to talk about the big game tomorrow. Leg number 2. Inter Miami, Vancouver. Are the nerves kicking in yet, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, look, at this point, if you ask me, like, we might be completely cooked. I can't wait to watch it, but it's gonna be a fun game, right? I mean, there's goals.
I don't know.
There's goals to be had. Goals.
Just because there's the goals to be had doesn't mean that they're gonna be had.
Come on, man. You're telling me at home that they're not gonna be had. Goals are to be had, Danny. If goals were to be had against LAFC, goals are gonna be had against Vancouver.
If you were Vancouver, what would your game plan? I'm gonna ask Sam. Sam's gonna come on with us at 9:30, but right now it's just me and you. We're gonna talk about the Inter Miami side of things.
Yeah.
But if you were Vancouver, what would you do?
I'd clog up the middle.
And you defend.
I'd clog up
play
the
the
middle.
transition.
I'd play like, I mean, this is a little basketball reference, but I'd play like, heavy sided on my right, leave the weak side to my left, and just hopefully Allende doesn't destroy us if I was Vancouver, right?
Yeah, I would defend and not play the counter. They have the speed up top to play the counter very well. They could buckle down and play the counter and still score because they have Sabi, they have Nelson, they have Ali Ahmed, and they have Brian White up top, which could convert some a header. Which because they were going for those aerial attacks also, like they have ways to beat us, even if they decide to defend most of the game.
Well, I mean, Rubita is saying here, I don't want to talk about how we're going to lose, but the opposite. I don't want to either. But like, Vancouver's a good team. Like they just finished winning against Minnesota, who just got Gressel.
Minnesota is a really good team.
Yes, I've said that since the beginning.
And they went ahead and they beat them with a rotated squad. The only starters on there, which are technically only starters because Ball is injured, Berhalter didn't start. He played in the second half.
Well, he came on the bench, yes.
Right. But the starters, Sabi and Nelson, and those two are only starters because Gald is still injured. So like that's and they managed to win 3-1, but the difference is they held on to their 3-1 lead, unlike us. We coughed it up. But anyway, all right, so let's go into this. First leg. Is there anything that you want to revisit from the first leg before we move on to the second leg?
Well, I mean, the whole idea of playing in Vancouver, like the turf was not helpful.
Absolutely.
So this is going to be different, very different in terms of how we as a team are going to be able to play at home. Like, I think if you put the game on grass somewhere, I think that the game would have been differently. versus that super Jesus turf.
Yeah, there were a couple opportunities. I'm sure that got away from them because the ball just the way it bounced. But I wouldn't say it would have been completely different. But I do think that no watch along because we'll be at the game.
Yeah,
We'll be at the game. But I do think that
we're a jinx anyway.
that's what they say.
I mean, you guys don't want us to do watch-alongs, but then want us to do watch-alongs.
I think the first leg showed one that they're going to attack us through the air, which we're going to get into the starting lineup in a second. But I do think that is a worry of mine that they were looking to attack us through the air.
They're very good with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we just need to have Allende, because I felt like the first 10 minutes of the second half, when we initially put Allende out on the right side, I felt like we looked better. And we had 2 shots the whole first half. We had 2 shots in the first 10 minutes of the second half. But as soon as Vancouver got a whiff that, these guys are getting comfortable, boom, and they defended. They started defending. They're like, you know what, we'll just play the counter. And that's basically what happened after the first 10 minutes of the second half, and we no longer had any chances. But I think it's time to move on to the second leg. So starting 11.
Well, before we talk about the starting 11, I need to ask the chat, guys, are you like that interested in having Obando play 30 plus minutes? Like I've been looking around the Inter Miami hemisphere, and there's people that are kind of clamoring for Obando appearance versus Vancouver.
If Suarez is a ghost the first 60, 65 minutes, I wouldn't mind seeing Obando the last 20, 25. But at that point, it might be too late. I mean, because if Suarez is a ghost for the first 65 minutes, things might not be going well.
You think that having Suarez, even though he hasn't played his best this year in terms of scoring goals, you think having him out of a very important, if not one of the most important games of this year?
No, I want him to start.
Yeah.
But if he's not being effective at all for 60, 65 minutes, then yes, absolutely. You got to change. At that point, that's the season, right? I understand that MLS Cup and everything is still on the line, but like this was the biggest trophy. I think we've all agreed. We want the star on top of the badge, but This is the biggest trophy in this continent. And this is the one we want. And if it's 65 minutes, Suarez isn't doing anything, you got to try something.
This is crazy because like at the end of the day, all right, let's just say hypothetically speaking, we take off Suarez 65th minute and then Obando comes in. We still lose. Obando's not going to get the blame. It's going to be Suarez. Suarez is going to get the blame whether he plays 60 or 90.
Okay, but that's fair because he played the majority of the game.
But then, like, would you risk taking off potentially a scorer in the capacity of Luis Suarez versus bringing on a young Obando who may do something? Maybe.
Look, I'm not a fan of having Obando play in a game like this. But what I'm saying is that if Luis Suarez continues on this bad streak that he has going, you can't risk it for night. This is the biggest game of the year. You have to throw a Hail Mary is basically what it essentially is. At that point, you're like, I've tried everything I can. I'm running out of time. Let's try this Hail Mary. Let's throw about, or even put Fafa up there at 9. Put Allende up at the 9. Like, you have to try something. But Suarez, if he is a ghost for the first 60 to 65 minutes, he has to come off.
It's just something I felt like needed discussion here because I think Obando carries the sort of unknown in terms of like bringing him on and hoping that he has like this successful half.
I will tell you one thing, and I know that in the chat and everybody watching after the fact might say it doesn't mean anything, which is fine. It's fair. But Suarez before I haven't heard that. Suarez before the last game against Vancouver was a ghost, but I mean a literal ghost. He wouldn't even touch the ball because everybody's playing that compact defense, right? In the first half, when things were a little more open, he touched the ball 31 times. He had a couple key passes. Like, he was more involved in this first half of the first leg. Now, the second leg, they got very defensive, and it seems to be very easy to kind of eliminate Suarez as a potential threat. at the moment for Inter Miami for their opponents. It feels like if they want to shut Suarez out of the game, seems like it's not very difficult. But with that being said, I would still give Suarez at least the first 60, 65 minutes. And you know what? People that are saying halftime, I'm not going to disagree with you. I wouldn't do that just because of who Suarez is and his pedigree. I would still give him those extra 15, 20 minutes. But I'm not going to completely go and be like, oh, my God, you guys are crazy. No, if you say half, that's fine. I wouldn't do it. But I could understand why somebody would be like, you know what, it's halfway through the game. It's time to make a sub. But I wouldn't. I would wait for 60, 65 minutes.
Well, I guess we can get into the 11, but like Miami King, possible to see Baltasar? No, there's no way. There's no way that he's going to come on for this game. No way.
No, I don't think so.
There's no way. So the starting lineup for last game, I don't know if you have an image for it, but I can just, speak it out. I mean, for those of you watching, here it is. And for those of you on audio, check us out on YouTube, like and sub, tell all your friends, tell your family and your cousins and your grandmas. So here we have the lineup. We got Ustadi at the bottom as goalie. Bottom four, we got Jordi Alba left back, Weigand right back. Allen and Falcon has been pretty solid at the center back position. We had Busquets and Redondo starting last game. Messi at the 10. Allende, if I'm not mistaken, was at the left wing. And then Segovia was at the right wing. And then Suarez was playing our solo striker. This Redondo, you need to get on the bench. Like, I think hands down, it's Bright needs to start. Okay, that's fair. That's just me.
What I was gonna ask you is, if we're talking about who gives us more in the attack, would you say Redondo?
I mean, of course, Redondo is the more offensive-minded sort of substitution in terms of like his mindset playing the game.
I've changed my thought process behind Redondo being more and not because Bright is better in the attack, but because I think Busquets feels a lot more freedom in contributing in the attack when he knows Bright is covering him. Whereas when Busquets and Redondo are playing together, you got to kind of be mindful of where the other one is. And I feel like that might kind of set the attack a little further back. Busquets can freely roam and go wherever the hell he wants when he knows he has Bright holding things down. Bright is basically a third center back whenever he has to be, and Redondo isn't that guy. So I think because of that, I would say that Bright helps more on the offensive and on the defense.
Well, and so, I mean, basically what you're saying is it's not the skill of Bright that gives us that offensive pedigree. It's the fact that Busquets feels the freedom enough to give his pedigree to the offense, where he doesn't have to dedicate himself to playing more defense than not. So I get that.
We're gonna push numbers forward, I think, tomorrow. I think that we're gonna be very aggressive, which is something we haven't seen with Mascherano as much.
Yeah,
and which is why our defense has technically improved a little bit. But I think that you kind of have to just go and chase the game. You have to go in that first goal. It'd be great if we can get that in the first 20 minutes or so.
Well, now, Danny, here's another couple things, because there's two other players that people are concerned about. Mr. Krabs starting off the march with no more Segovia. So, like, are we done with Segovia at that wing position?
No,
so Segovia is getting it no matter what.
I think so. I would like Fafa to get it, but I think Segovia is going to start. Now, one thing I do expect, and again, I could be wrong. Chat, let me know what you think, because I felt like Vancouver made it a point to attack us in the air with constant crosses into the box where they were looking for White in his headers. I think that there's a chance that Toto Avila starts over Allen.
Toto Avila starting over Noah Allen?
I think so. I mean, would you? I think of the two, of Allen and Falcon, I love Allen, but I think Falcon has been better than Allen. I think Falcon has been our best defender, so I wouldn't take him off.
Yeah, I mean, I think the good thing about having Allen is that you can bring him in later in the game, and he'll be an extremely effective center back.
Yeah.
So I could see that.
Well, I'm just thinking as far as defending the crosses and the headers, I go Toto Aviles. Um, but I do I love Allen. And after today, go back to the whole Allen Falcon pairing. But the way that I saw that first leg playing out and what Vancouver was trying to do with those crosses, especially from the right side, looking for White, I don't know. I think I'd feel more comfortable having a little more height to defend some of those aerial duels, and I would go with Aviles. I mean, he hasn't done anything stupid up until now, right? Like he's calmed down with the whole yellow cards.
Yes, he has. He's played a lot, and he still keeps his aggression about him in terms of playing defense aggressively. I mean, the only other gap that I could see in terms of like defensively is Frey over Cello. Because if you want the offensive push, that's where you're going to get it. But go ahead.
We'll get into that right now, because I think this kind of leads into that also. Did you hear in the Dallas game that Miami is the worst crossing team in the league? I don't think they said that they're the worst, but they're the ones that cross the ball the least because we do not play on the wide areas.
Yeah,
we are strictly going up the middle through Messi, trying to connect and link up play with Suarez and Segovia, and that is our game plan. We are going straight up the middle. We do not push the ball wide. And what happened against Dallas? We had Ian Frey pushing up the right side, and he was crossing it, and we had 2 goals that resulted in those crosses. Yes. One technically wasn't an assist, but the other one was. Those were off the side. Last year, Jordi Alba had 14 assists as a left back.
Yes.
Coming up the left side. We were attacking the wings. This year, we've completely changed. Mascherano ball is right up the gut. And I don't know why. If Allende is going to contribute and get the ball, it's not going to be off of a cross. It's because he's going to do some line breaking runs, run behind the defense, get a through ball from somebody. But the way that they've been defending us, they're not giving us any space to do those things. So we have to change something, because the whole up the gut. Okay, what's the defense going to do? Let's just kind of just sunk in right in the middle and go. We dare you to go wide, and we're not doing it. So it's not that we're the worst crossing team. It's that we're the team that's done it the least. And that is a fact. Statistically, we have crossed the ball the least of anybody in the league.
Well, it's not only that, but then also when you start to see plays that Messi, has the ball and he's surrounded by defenders, right? And that's understandable. Messi's the greatest player, greatest football player of all time. But at the same time, like, it doesn't help because they're sinking in so deeply in that area. And if we're not pushing it through the sides, then we're kind of cooked.
We're not cooked per se, but we're definitely making life more difficult for us, I think, because the other teams have realized, okay, we can defend this. They might get a goal here or there, but they're going to have a hard time getting it. So we're just going to defend this way. And we're like, okay, well, we're going to figure this out eventually. But guess what? You only have 90 minutes to figure it out now. And you got to figure it out 2 to 3 times.
Well, and I think that this is where Segovia can be a factor, because if we are going to push it in the middle, at least Segovia is another player that can be able to handle the ball under pressure and make very good passes, has a better vision, very creative with the ball. That's where maybe having Segovia lends a little bit to us.
Yeah, at this point, you should just play like a 4-4-2 and just have Allende and Suarez up top, and then have Messi and Segovia behind them. If you don't want to go wide, and then just let Alba and whoever the right back is push up and be your wide players. Because at this point, I don't see what's the point of having Segovia and Allende line up wide, because we're not using them that way. Now, let's get into the Weigand Frey talk. Do you think Weigand starts or Frey? I think Frey he's better defensively. And again, this is no knock against Cello, because Cello had a good first leg. But I think Frey's a better player. Frey gives you more on the defensive side, and he also will push up and contribute in the attack.
We need goals.
Okay.
We need goals. And Weigand's not going to give us goals. Ian Frey's going to give us goals.
Ian Frey.
We need
I
goals.
don't think that Mascherano gives Frey the liberty to push up as high as he did in the Dallas game. And the Dallas game is like, you young bucks, go ahead and have fun. I feel like that's what it was. Now that this is a serious game, I don't think Frey will have the liberty to push up as much.
Man, you don't know. I mean, I imagine that if Frey pushes up, like the disaster it would create on Vancouver's defense, where they'd have to essentially shift all the attention over to the opposite side of where they're probably focusing and game planning.
I'm going to ask you one question, then I have to go check on my daughter a second.
Yeah.
Xavier told me, and he made a great point on the Spanish show last night. He said he believes that the reason Cello plays over Frey is because Cello can give you a solid 90, but Frey gets gassed after 60. And if you watch the game against Dallas, Frey did look gassed.
Yeah, it is true.
And to quote Mike V on the Spanish show yesterday, he was in the comments. He said Frey looked more gassed than a plumber in the Titanic. So, I mean, I guess that could be one of the reasons. Cello does. I'll be right back.
Yeah, I'll answer that while you step away. I mean, honestly, I've seen it too. Ian Frey does tend to get gassed during the game. But again, we're talking about the kind of input that Ian Frey has essentially offensively, right? This is sort of the difference where, I mean, you just said it yourself. Defensively, Ian Frey, you feel like is better than Weygant. Offensively, we know he's better than Weygant. So obviously, since he's exerting so much attack on his side, and then on top of that, he has to recover back on defense to be able to make sure that he's not a liability on the defense, it's going to make for a big difference, and that's why Ian Frey gets gassed. As far as like Weygant is concerned, look, Weygant is very consistent. I don't want to say, look, I think we have to stop, guys, with the Cello mid. I think that Cello's sort of proven himself. And Miami King is saying Frey can play 60, 65 minutes effectively. Effectively, he could play 60, 65 minutes.
Sub in Cello?
Well, that's what Angel thinks. Sub him in after 60th minute. But then let's count the substitutions, right? You got, let's say you hypothetically start Ian Frey. You know, one of the substitutions is Weygant coming in for Frey.
Okay.
The other substitution, you know, it's going to have to be for a center back, right? Because if you got Toto there, quite possibly you could bring in Noah Allen.
But I do think Redondo and Bright will switch. Whoever starts is going to get subbed out for the other.
Okay, so that's 2.
Segovia is getting taken out for Ben Krem at some point.
That's 3.
Allende is going to get taken out for Fafa, depending on the scenario of the game.
That's 4.
Suarez might get taken
out. Suarez and Obando? Possibly. So you have one defensive substitution on this line right here. Mm-hmm. One here, and you're going to have 3 up at the top.
I don't see, if we manage to keep Vancouver out of the goal, I don't see any defensive substitutions coming. I think that they'll run out there the 90 minutes.
Well, I mean, look, Mike V is saying this convo is all for nothing because Cello is 100% starting. Yeah, Mike V's got the inside scoop, allegedly. So I'll take that. And Love Logic, I would love to see this. Throwing Morales out there, I would love to see that.
He didn't get in the Dallas game. He's not getting in this game.
Yeah.
And shout out to the dude, Abides, always with this comment.
Always.
You are the best.
Yes. Appreciated.
So that was the starting 11. So do you think we run out there with the same 4-3-2-1? I'm sorry, 4-2-3-1.
Yes. I don't think that changes. I think that Mascherano's,
but
I think Mascherano's pretty comfortable with that.
I wish it would. Okay. And if you had to name an X factor, who would your X factor be?
Allende.
Okay. I mean, he was the difference maker the first month or so.
Allende, to me, has to be. He's the person that helps stretch the field, especially when he's on the right side of the pitch.
I'm going to say Jordi Alba.
Well, he is an X factor. That's a good one.
Jordi Alba needs to dominate that left side. He needs to be whipping those balls into Suarez and Messi the way he does. Look, we haven't seen one of those Jordi Alba runs where it looks like he's going to run out with the ball and then he just crosses it into the top of the box, and Messi. We haven't seen any of that
haven't
over the
seen
last
that.
month.
Nope.
Jordi Alba needs to be the guy that gets us going.
I mean, Love Logic saying Sergio Ramos couldn't even stop Vancouver from scoring. Woof.
This
What a
is
bad
true.
one. That
In
guy's an
Mexico.
assassin.
Well, and that was in Mexico, and they scored 2, both times against Pumas and against Monterrey.
Vancouver's giving 0 fucks about anything in life. I mean, they are rampaging, Danny.
Yeah.
How you're not nervous is beyond me.
It's not. No, I'm not nervous, but I'm not as confident as I was going into
We
the
need
first leg.
764 goals, Danny.
And then Steve Munoz saying Falcon is the X factor.
Falcon, he's great.
I mean, we have
He's
to keep
not
them out of the
X
goal also.
factor.
As soon as they score 1 goal, we gotta get 4.
Yeah, but we're talking about like who's gonna change this game? Who's gonna turn this game on the stop of a dime? 5-3-2, Mike V? Are you nuts? We need to be playing like 1 defender and 9 forwards.
Then they're gonna score.
But we need to score. I mean, we need to score. Danny.
No, we need to make sure that they don't score, so we just have to score 2.
Okay, but we still need multiple goals.
All right.
You still need multiple goals. You're going to throw 5 in the back? What are we doing?
All right, so we have Sam joining us to talk about the Vancouver side of things, and then we'll keep going with our conversation. So I'm going to bring Sam on the screen. I'm going to jump off real quick. I think I hear my daughter crying. So I'm going to go ahead, bring him on screen, see what he thinks about the first leg, and I will be right back.
Let's go. Sam, welcome to the program. I'll add you right now. What's going on, Sam?
What's up, everyone? How's it going? Yeah, happy to be on and looking forward to the second leg here. Should be a fun one.
Well, just let's get right to it. Like after the first leg, what were your thoughts?
Well, so one of the biggest things I took away was the fact that Miami got the kind of game they were looking for in Vancouver. They won that possession battle. They held the ball, and somehow like that just, Jesper Sorensen said that was not the result tactically he was looking for from the match, and it just didn't matter. I think that was the part of it that was surprising. We talked about it when we previewed this matchup, where it was like, man, that midfield battle, whoever gets control, that could really be pivotal.
Yes.
And then it just didn't matter at all. The way Tate Johnson played was exceptional. I think all the younger inexperienced guys like an Eddie Ocampo on the other side, they really came to play. That was huge. And then I think Vancouver just being clinical and taking those chances, because they probably weren't the better team for the majority of that match, but they had 2 grade A scoring opportunities and they finished both of them. That's what you expect from Miami, right? Where it's like, take those chances when they come and be ruthless. So the Whitecaps kind of flipped the script there. Now I think it's interesting because all the stuff you were just talking about in the last 5-10 minutes, it's so tricky for Miami because they're going to want to go run and gun, but then that just sounds like the perfect opportunity for Vancouver to grab at least 1 on the counter. Vancouver likes to hold the ball, but they're also, prior to Jesper Sorensen, they were all about transition and counterattacking goals. So they still have the ability to do that. And as you mentioned, having gone to Mexico a couple times and finding a way to score 2, I think, that's certainly a tricky challenge for Miami to try to unravel. And, I don't know, hearing from Mascherano after leg 1, it didn't sound like there were a lot of clear or explicit answers. It seems like there's such a divide between who's in form and who's favored by the manager, how that fits into the style he wants to play. And so, I was really surprised. I thought Fafa Pico's someone who I think could give the Whitecaps trouble. Why are you not using him? The young South American, wingers who can bring pace, who could, when Eddie Ocampo and Tate Johnson get forward, it's like, man, get them running in those channels. Didn't see any of that in the first leg. So I think, Miami needs to to switch things up a little bit. And this feels like if it's gonna become an interesting tie, if we're gonna get into LAFC kind of territory, it's going to have to be run and gun. It's going to have to be a bunch of goals. It's going to have to be like a 5-6-3 or something like that. I feel like that's the only way this gets interesting, because if Miami just passes the ball around, I think Vancouver will sit and structure.
They'll weather the storm.
They'll hold the ball when they can. They'll be okay to play that kind of game. So Miami's going to have to open things up. And yeah, we're just going to have to kind of see where it goes from there. Both sides having rested like almost their whole squad on the weekend. So very clearly all the focus is on this match, which is, it's always fun because we're going to see the best from both teams.
Well, and look, Amanda's mentioning here, we agree, Sam, Fafa should start. Now, the conversation Danny and I were having in terms of, like, for example, Segovia on Inter Miami's side, right? He's a very good creator. But Fafa, like you mentioned, he could cause trouble against Vancouver, but nobody really predicts him being a starter on this team for this coming game. And to be honest, just talking about the first leg, right? The first goal, I expected that. I knew that we weren't going to walk away, in my opinion, without getting scored on. But that second goal, where I believe Nelson had like a cross that literally passed 6 players or something like that, just beautifully gets to Berhalter and he just slams it to the back of the net. That one hurts because now we're really up against it. I mean, we've gone through all the scenarios, and right, 2-0, if we have a 2-0 outing tomorrow, it goes into, I don't know if it's extra time or if it's penalties. That's something that Danny was working on. I'm not sure what it is. If it's 3-1, right, we win. I mean, but we're talking about putting up goals. So that's going to be the troubling part against you guys in tomorrow's matchup. I mean, this just popped up out of nowhere. Danny is back there in the cave land.
Yeah, I'm back, but these are the scenarios. Yeah. As you can see, in the majority of them, Vancouver advances.
Well, can I let me highlight something from the comments. I see one there that says Vancouver is not coming to play, but to protect the 2-0 lead. I can emphatically say, knowing Jesper Sorensen, that will not be the case.
That's how I felt he played after the 60th minute in the second half.
Everything's going to be, I think, in this one, they're going to try to get a goal early to then turn it into that you need a 4-1 scenario. I think it's like
disaster.
No, right? But I think that plays to our hand because I think Miami has to take advantage and score.
I think
that because I think the game's going to be wide open the first 20 minutes.
The first 15, 20 minutes could really decide whether this is a competitive 2-leg contest, right? Like if Miami gets one early, all of a sudden anything goes. If Vancouver gets one early, it gets really difficult really fast. So, I kind of get the sense that Vancouver is going to try to go for the kill in that regard. It could play into Miami's hands. We're just going to have to see. But, the Whitecaps it was interesting on I guess that was the weekend now on Sunday against Minnesota. The Whitecaps were kind of content, I think, with an almost fully rotated squad to play for the draw, just kind of get a 0-0, whatever. And then I think Sorensen saw something in Minnesota that he felt like the team could exploit and brought on Berhalter, brought on Vite, and all of a sudden it was 3-0. So, they've had that ability recently and just kind of throughout this season to all of a sudden really turn it on when Sorensen finds something that he can try to exploit or try to really press a team. So I think that first 15, 20 minutes is it's really going to determine whether it's worth watching the rest of the way through, basically.
And Min, everything I've looked has said that it's extra time and then penalties. I don't know if Sam, if you heard otherwise, but that's what I've seen. And when I've looked into it, it says there's 30 minutes of extra time and then penalties.
Xavier saying, I've flown from Seattle to Miami before and I was miserable. Granted, it was on Spirit, but still can't imagine playing well after that.
Well, they're already down here, aren't they?
Yeah, they trained today. They flew down earlier today, had a little light training session, and then
they're good to go. They'll be good to go by tomorrow night. Yeah,
they're sleeping in comfy beds tonight. So
also, I mean, playing in Seattle, playing in Vancouver, if you're on one of those teams, travel is regularly 4 or 5 hours. I mean, even Miami, you guys, you have longer travel for a U.S. team than probably most, right? So this is, it's a little extra for sure, but not crazy. And I think overall too, like Minnesota midweek was not there, or not mid, I guess midweek in the sense of between this tie was not like a crazy travel. So it wasn't like they were going to the East Coast or something that would have made things a real mess, or even if they'd had to like stay on the road. I think it was nice everyone got to go, still get back to Vancouver and kind of recenter before heading to Miami.
I do agree with everything you said as far as Vancouver's gonna go for that goal. They're gonna go for the kill early. But I think that Miami is going to try to take advantage.
I'm not saying it's going to work.
Absolutely.
I feel like that's
go
the way
for it, right?
That's the way it's going.
And I think that it'll look a lot like the first 20 minutes of the first leg, because I felt like that's how the first 20 minutes or so of the first leg went. And then Vancouver got that first goal, and things kind of just went awry for Miami. They started holding the possession but doing nothing with it. But I felt like the first 20 minutes were that way, and I think it'll happen again. Miami has to take advantage, though, because after the first 20, 25 minutes, I think Vancouver isn't going to be as aggressive pushing numbers forward.
Yeah, Mez is saying we cannot concede first. That's going to be critical in this game.
If we concede, it has to be first, and it has to
be like first 10 minutes.
Like the LAFC, because an LAFC, they scored in the first 10 minutes, and we knew, okay, we need 3, and then they worked the rest of the games to get those 3. If we're going to get scored on, let's make it early. Because it'll be a heartbreaker to be up 2-0 and all of a sudden give up a late goal. Because then you need 2 more.
It's going to be rough. That's rough sledding.
So as far as starting 11, are we going to see the same starting 11 that we did last week?
Yeah, so I was just thinking about this and kind of taking a look at the lineup from the weekend. So I wouldn't really expect any changes. The one thing I guess that's a slight bit of nervousness is that, okay, so Andres Cubas wasn't even in the 18 against Minnesota. Now, that's most likely precautionary, but I do think he picked up a little bit of a knock against Miami in the first leg. So just going to have to see. Cubas is a guy that, like, he separated his shoulder and he was back in a week. So,
he's that gritty South American.
Yeah. So I don't think that's going to be a true problem, but yeah, exactly. So, it's just something to watch out for, though, that if it does it pop back up at some point during the 90. But yeah, in terms of Yohei Takaoka in goal, I imagine in terms of, we saw Sam Adekubi come back and play a little bit against Minnesota. I still think, though, in terms of the fullbacks, Johnson and Ocampo played so well that they're just going to run back that same back line with Blackman and Ranko Veselinovic
They don't have much to do anyway.
In the middle,
attack the wings.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, yeah, I don't see any real need for change there. The way that Cubas and Johnson kind of, put the pincer on Messi when they could seemed to work reasonably well. Now, I'm sure Miami's going to have some answers or some thoughts about how they can potentially counter that, maybe moving Messi around a little bit.
I would hope.
Yeah, and then midfield, I would say, not expecting any changes. Vite, Cubas, Berhalter, that's been the strength of this side all year really to date. So I don't know why you would go away from that. They always have the ability to push Vite into an advanced role. Sometimes he can be that third forward, and he's good there too if they need to switch something out. Exactly, and they played him a little bit further forward, and he did well. So now the only spot where there's maybe a little bit of a question is up front, especially like in the wide areas. Exactly. So, Brian White, another guy that was rested, didn't even see the pitch against Minnesota. So, he's going to start. And then we saw, Jaden Nelson, who's kind of ramping back up to full fitness. He played, but he came off in the 60-something-ish minute. And so I think Jaden might be a shout for a start because Emmanuel Sabi went the full 90-plus in Minnesota. And then we saw Ali Ahmed come off the bench and, terrorize on the left-hand side against Minnesota. Now, Ahmed didn't have a very good match. Ahmed was maybe, the worst performer on the Vancouver team in the first leg. Weigand just kind of, had his number. It seemed like Ali couldn't do anything, and I thought Weigand was
had a great game. Yeah,
he was best player on Miami for me in the first leg. Him and Falcon were pretty good. In a match where not a lot necessarily went right. So I'm curious, to see, does Ahmed bring his Minnesota game, or does it kind of go back? Maybe also they might flip and put Nelson on that side and put Ahmed on the other side. We
don't think Sabi starts?
That's the thing. I don't know physically. Like I feel like Sabi's probably got the ability to do it. You could tell honestly that Jaden Nelson was auditioning in Minnesota on the weekend. Like he was trying hard to be like, hey, look at what I can do. I'm ready to play midweek. So I think it's the Sabi Nelson thing. So based on what how Nelson's feeling, how Sabi's recovery has been, and then also what Sorensen sees in the matchup, and thinks maybe that he has a bit of a beat on. Because honestly, I felt like the fullback, center back kind of pairings on each side for Miami that was pretty good in the first leg. Like I feel like that wasn't necessarily the problem. Was the inability to really create high quality goal scoring chances. Actually
that
felt
first
like
goal, you score on anybody on that first goal.
That goal was going to go through no matter what. I mean, you're mentioning Jaden Nelson campaigning for some time. I mean, the way that I see it, he came off the bench and made a spectacular difference. So like having him come off the bench isn't really a bad idea either.
Well, and again, whoever, if it's Ahmed, Sabi, Nelson, one of them is going to have to come off the bench.
And Gold, could you imagine that when they're all healthy?
Yeah. So you're pretty excited about that possibility for sure. And then when the thing is when Gald's healthy, okay, he's starting. Now you're getting two of those guys off the bench. So I think that's definitely dangerous. And also just the rigors of an MLS season. Obviously, you kind of need that depth at a certain point. So, I mean, I don't see radical differences for Vancouver from leg one. They're probably the team looking more so to run it back. Though I would say that I know Sorensen was not happy with he felt like the execution in possession, especially in the first 20-25 minutes, was quite poor. It definitely felt being there in the stadium like the Whitecaps players were nervous. It was a big event. Love to see 54,000 in attendance, but that's not every day for Vancouver. Right. That's definitely an exceptional circumstance. I mean, even just being in the building is I was kind of getting up for it. It was a different environment than we're used to. And that's no discredit to the normal crowd at BC Place, but it had kind of cup final, big match feelings to it. So I think now that the Whitecaps have been through that once, and then also being on the road where in a way there's a little bit less pressure, like at home, there's this feeling of performing in front of home supporters. I think this Whitecaps group kind of likes no one believes in us, backs against the wall, especially they've done it twice down in Mexico. I feel like they kind of thrive on
the underdog deal.
I mean, you look at the midfield, you look at Kubas and Berhalter, they just represent that, right? Be a little chippy, be a little CONCACAF. Get in the face, questionable tackles, and just kind of embracing everything that comes with that. So I think in some ways that the environment for this one kind of suits the way the Whitecaps want to go in, but I think it's important that they're just sharp in possession through that first 15, 20 minutes because, turnovers in bad areas, obviously Miami can potentially exploit that.
I was going to say that home field advantage, although it is an advantage because Miami plays well at home, Vancouver's ready for it because Vancouver went ahead and they beat, they didn't beat, but they advanced with Monterrey and Pumas in Mexico 2 times. So they've been in hostile environments already during this tournament. So this is playing on the road isn't necessarily going to be a disadvantage. I do think that Miami plays well at home, but I wouldn't look at Vancouver and be like, oh, they're going to be shook by the big moment. No, they've been in this position twice now. So they'll be fine as far as that goes.
Yeah, I would think it's not necessarily a problem for them for sure. So, and I think the environment, in Miami, it's not it's a nice stadium, but you're not in front of 80,000 or anything like that.
On a good day sellout, I think we fit what is it, 23, 24,000?
24,000, 23 and change.
It's less than half of what they had last week, so we can get loud, and we'll cuss out your keeper, but that's about it.
Well, I was going to say that was one thing that I also felt was for your Inter Miami supporter, or you're just interested in the match. Really, both goalkeepers in leg one, man, that's not a lot of aerial presence in the box from both of them. Set plays, that's one thing where even if the match is pretty even, set plays can all of a sudden just swing things massively, and that can still go in favor of both teams in this one. didn't feel like Miami really exploited things the way they could. In
Ustadi,
like
well, but that's been my only, because Ustadi's been really good for us. The style of play Mascherano wants to play, everything, Ustadi has been good. My only thing is that he doesn't attack the ball when it's in the air. Yeah. And that I think has been really bad. And we haven't necessarily paid too much for it. We have at times, but that is definitely the weakness of Ustadi. And I know you said that was the weakness for your keeper also last week. But like I said, we didn't take advantage of it.
Yeah. I noticed that on corners, we didn't take any advantage of that.
So, Sam, we were talking before you came on about how we hope to eventually attack the wide areas. We don't think we will, but that's where our hope is.
Yeah.
From what you saw, do you think there's any other way that Miami could attack this team that you think would lead to some type of success?
Well, I think one of the things I saw, like seeing it in person last Thursday, was just that the lack of pace up front with Messi and Suarez is pretty jarring, right? And watching Suarez run around looking like he's, nursing an injury from like minute 2
all day.
Yeah, it's like he's just grimacing. Every step is pain, right? That's just, I think Vancouver's been as long as that back line kind of stays organized, they rarely feel too stressed out. And so when that central area in the attack is not really providing that vertical threat, I think even if you do get in those wide areas, it's like the one fullback goes out, the other fullback kind of tucks into the back line, and they can stay in that structure. So I feel like the one spot this year where Vancouver has been caught out at times is if fullbacks or recovering midfielders don't get out wide to block or kind of like affect crosses. If they just allow free crosses from wide areas, and then another team can kind of be like, those late runs from midfielders overload the box. There's been some headed goals, some kind of second chance goals off crosses that the Whitecaps don't get out to interfere with. So that would be the area where, but I think again without like any pace centrally to open up space and to kind of spread Vancouver out, that has become a little bit more difficult and it kind of looked difficult for Miami in the first leg. But I think, Fafa, whoever else can just kind of provide that vertical threat to stretch things out. That's absolutely what Miami needs. Even if, drop Suarez and Messi deep, play a ball to them, have someone run, and then, hit it over the top. I think we need to see more of that from Miami in leg 2.
Well, I mean, let's bring this comment up real quick. If Obando and Suarez had a race, the Turtle would win. And then here, Juan is bringing up a good comment. Says Miami needs to use midfield more. Vancouver knows passes going to Alba, then crossing to Messi. The thing about it is, though, Juan, and like people are saying, we'll work it from the outside, work it in the middle. Like regardless of what we do, working it from the outside didn't work last game against LAFC. Well, we didn't do it, but it also hasn't been working as well as we planned out to be. Same thing in the middle when we played against LAFC. That wasn't working either.
Last year, statistically, because I love my numbers, statistically, our attack built up the left side 70% of the time. 70% of the time, our attack built up the left side. Jordi Alba was the attack last year. Now, that's why he had 14 assists at fullback.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's completely changed this year. And again, I'm sure that's why our defense is also doing a bit better this year, right? We're not playing as high of a line. We're not pushing up as high with both fullbacks. We let Jordi Alba do it once in a blue, but that's it. Jordi Alba needs to be the X factor coming in tomorrow. So, I think it is prediction time. Sam, you called 1-1 draw, I believe?
Yeah.
So
he was close.
You got the 2 goals, right? Right? They scored 2 goals, right? All together in the game. I was also correct with the 2-0 scoreline. Just wrong teams. Your prediction for tomorrow night?
Yeah, so I think Miami is going to come out much improved. I feel like they kind of have to, and the way they rested everyone in the weekend makes you believe that everything's going to go into this match So I think I'm going to say 2-1 Miami. I feel like, I just don't imagine Miami being able to keep a clean sheet, especially if they're going to throw everything forward. But I think they'll show a lot more. Maybe you get a set piece goal. Maybe you use some of those players with pace to stretch the Whitecaps out a little bit, and there's at least it's at least tight, and there's it's contested near the end. But I feel like ultimately, trying to keep the Caps off the scoreboard for the full 90 minutes in the second leg, plus finding enough goals. I don't know if they're going to be able to thread that needle as perfectly as they need to ultimately to get over the hump. But for me, looking back to leg one, the feeling like amongst people around me was more so, as much as the second goal was nice, it was just like keeping the clean sheet in leg one. That was a way bigger deal. The second goal went in, and it was still like, okay, we've got to see this thing out to the full-time whistle, because that was so important.
Yeah, absolutely. Keeping a clean sheet when you're the home team in one of these two legs, definitely a big deal. And correct me if I'm wrong, Vancouver's been shut out only twice, and I believe both of those ended up in 0-0 draws.
Yeah, so TFC and St. Louis, off the top of my head, yeah.
So no. If Vancouver gets shut out, it's not like the other team scoring goals. It just ends up being just a 0-0 draw. With that said, Chris, do you want to go first, or you want me to go first? Thanks.
Well, and I'm going to go ahead and go first, but before I do, because I know Sam is probably thinking about this question.
Since 2020. No, that can't be right.
That's not good. I want you to search for this while I bring some of this stuff up. Here, look, Marasovic is predicting Miami 3-0, which would give us the win. Mr. Krabs 4-0, that would give us the win. Angel saying 3-1, it goes into extra time. And then Miami Jiff, our fellow Canadian here, says 3-1 Miami heartbreak. Soccer Daddy making fun of it was another Canadian. Thank you. Soccer Daddy saying my prediction 2-1 Miami Vancouver. This would not put us over the hump. We would lose.
Yes. And just real quick, Galaxy scored 4 on Vancouver on September 21st last year.
Yeah, so they conceded 4 to Houston as well, I believe, last year. Yeah, Houston Dynamo, that was a 4-3 loss at home. So,
if you want to get cute with it, Wrexham scored 4 on them last summer.
Yeah, with a bunch of with like some 16-year-old academy kids on the pitch. That was they subbed in like the whole academy and Joe Bendick in like the 60th minute, and then promptly got scored on 3 times.
So now Pythias has lost all credibility.
I'm gonna go with a score line of a 3-1, and that would put us into extra time. And
no, 3-1, we would be eliminated.
3-1, 3-1 wouldn't be eliminated.
Yes, we would.
No, it wouldn't.
Yeah, we'd be
tied. It would be 2-0.
We would be tied 3-3 on aggregate, and they have the away goal, which is the tiebreaker.
It's 2-0 would be the only result that takes it to extra time.
After 2-0, you have to win by 3 goals.
Oof.
So it's 2-0 or 4-1 are the two like
or 5-2
score lines for Miami. Yeah.
6-3, 7-4. You have to win by 3 goals. So you either win 2-0 or you win by 3 goals.
I'm gonna go with 4-1, Danny. I'm going with 4-1.
4 times.
I don't know. I'm just going crazy. I mean, I don't want to do 2-0. That sounds boring. I know that's what you're gonna do, because you're boring McBorster. You are gonna say 2-0.
Somebody said 2-1, and I fear that that's what's gonna happen. Because what I think is that, like what Sam said, this is what I'm predicting. I think they are gonna go for the game. Vancouver, they're gonna go for the kill early. Miami has a chance to take advantage of that, and they might get a first quick early goal. All of a sudden, it's 1-0. Vancouver now says, hold on. Let's not keep pushing the numbers that much forward. And Miami says, okay, we just need 1 more. We're not going to open it up as much because now we're in position to tie the game. But if we give 1 up, we're screwed. All of a sudden, the game starts getting a little more methodical, and the pace slows down a little bit. And I think Miami eventually gets the second one later on in the game. Now, where my fear is that once it becomes 2-2 on aggregate, what happens? Does Miami continue to push for the win? Vancouver can counter us. And like Sam said, like you said, like I say, like everybody in the chat says, like anybody that watches MLS says, Miami can't hold a clean sheet. It just doesn't happen. So my fear is that they'll get one after we are celebrating the 2-2 draw in aggregate and we lose. So my prediction is 2-1.
I mean, we're about to drive an hour to watch this game.
2 hours.
We don't,
because it's a weekday.
well, tomorrow, exactly. It's going to be even worse.
Mm-hmm. But my hope is 2-0, and then we go to extra time, and anything can happen at that point. And I'm going to ask Chris this question, and Sam, I'll ask you the same question, but in the other way. Chris, I'll start with you. If we go to extra time, and then we lose in extra time, what's more heartbreaking? Just letting them beat us in the first 90 or making it to extra time?
Oh, no. Absolutely losing it in extra time.
So you'd rather just lose it in the 90?
I'd rather just, lose it in the 90. Let me get home earlier. No, man.
And Sam, I'm assuming you're going to say the same thing.
I guess, I don't know. It's one of those like mixed bags, right? Because I think it'd be incredibly disappointing. I think in a way it'd be more disappointing for Vancouver if they find a way to lose this in 90 minutes.
90. Yes, that's true.
Given what's happened in the first leg.
And the advantage that they currently have.
I think like if you lost to Miami 2-0 at home, you go to extra time and then it goes to pens and you lose on pens, like still very disappointing, obviously, but you can kind of like see how that happens and you go, well, you played against a very good team, evenly matched for, the entirety of the 2 legs and it went down to penalties. You could kind of talk yourself into that one being okay. Right. But I think if it's like 3-4-0 or something for Miami, then that feels like a real letdown for the Whitecaps. So that would probably be my answer.
And I could see that. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Dennis Lopez is saying, I'm with Chris. Get it over with. Just do me in. That's it. Mike B wants PKs. I mean, this guy wants to poop his pants mid-game.
All right. And my last question for you, Chris. We say Chelo and Frey aren't going to get subbed out. It's going to be Chelo 90 minutes. So we're still going to have that one substitute remain. We go to PKs. In the 120th minute, do you sub in Drake Callender? Or do you let Ustadi right out the?
Yes, I mean
Sean
Callender. Well, let me tell you, that would actually be pretty bad because, like, what if Drake allows every goal in? Like, they're not even going to trade him.
When it's PKs,
he's going to be traded to the grocery store.
Oh, when it's PKs, you're expecting the person taking the PK to score. Oh God.
Might be saying stub Rocco in. What? Drake is injured? Rick A?
Well, there that goes. Forget it. Then Ustadi has to do it because I don't want to see Rocco on there. All right. Sam, you're not going to make it out to the game, I'm assuming.
No, we have a good group actually of media headed down, but I am not in attendance. But maybe if things go according to plan for the Whitecaps, we'll have to see if we can. In all likelihood, that's another subplot for the Caps is depending on what happens between Club America and Tigres. Is there any chance of hosting the final? Seems like most likely they would be headed to Mexico. So. That's definitely kind of on the bucket list if the Whitecaps manage to make it. Yeah, as you see there, I think they would need a crazy goal difference. The Whitecaps would need a crazy goal difference to overcome Cruz Azul or Tigres, even if they do win. So I think that Vancouver, if they make it through, are most likely headed to Mexico.
At the moment, Inter Miami, because this was before the first legs for both games. At the moment, Inter Miami is in third. Because they're all tied at 9 points, but Inter Miami, obviously, they lost last game by 2 goals, so their goal differential was 3, so they moved down to below Cruz Azul and Tigres. But they have to beat Vancouver by 3 goals, so that would push them above unless Cruz Azul or Tigres beats the other by more than 1. So as talking to Miami fans, if we go to the final and you want any hope of actually hosting it, you need Tigres and Pumas, whoever wins, to only win by 1 goal. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult to host the game.
I think your idea of getting Calendar in is cooked. Because Rick A saying press conference today felt his same discomfort. His ego is bruised.
I mean, they dropped 4 on him, right? Even though I don't think it was nobody was going to stop him, but regardless.
Well, shout out to I Am Jekka with the super slam over here, Danny. 5-2 or 2-0, and then we win extra time. That's what I'm going with. Go big or go home. If we go PK, don't let Ben hot kick.
That was a brutal free kick that he took on Sunday. That's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, Sam. As always, we appreciate you taking the time to join us. I wish you nothing but the worst tomorrow night. Let everybody know where they can find you.
Thirdsub.ca, just the third sub across all socials and stuff like that. Yeah, it's been fun. Apologies for being a bit smug, but maybe Miami will make me feel differently tomorrow night. But I'm excited for it either way. I mean, the opportunity to go to a continental final and to battle for a trophy. It's just these are exciting matches to talk about. So just looking forward to it, no matter what happens. Really, yeah.
Well, one way or another, MLS is going to have a representative in the final, which is really cool.
Yeah. And it's going to be a great matchup, regardless of all 4 possibilities. I think are interesting. So,
absolutely. And then Sam, everybody keeps asking if you're in a sauna.
No, I mean it is kind of like the sauna wood, isn't it? So yeah, I get that. That's funny. No, but the temperature is nice, so no complaints from me.
I can imagine. It's like what, 60 something?
Yeah, just kind of like right in that
peak summer.
right in that early summer, just kind of like go outside in a t-shirt, but it's not warm. Oh gosh, well I have to do the Fahrenheit Celsius conversion.
Oh,
it probably rarely gets over 100. Like those would be like notable and sort of exceptional days. But it can especially at like higher elevations, if you're in like direct sun, it does get pretty hot. But those are like notable days. And we don't have crazy humidity. So it's not one of those things where you step outside and the air hits you like
in the face.
Yeah, we don't really get that very often. So even when it is really warm, you don't have to deal with that like suffocating heat.
Chris has been looking for somewhere to relocate. He wants to move to Vancouver. Chris has a lot of money. Chris, that seems like a place for you.
I don't have a lot of money, okay? I'm thinking about going to Alaska. I heard that they pay people to move there. So I might go over there.
Yeah, people. If you go like super far north in Canada, you get like certain subsidies, but it's also because it's like insane to like everything's super expensive because they have to fly it up there.
Of course, yeah.
Like I mean, yeah, very similar.
Yeah, okay. I might look into that. Move over to north of Vancouver. Danny, you with me?
I just want to visit Vancouver, to be honest with you. I've heard so many nice things about it that I just want to go.
It looks gorgeous. Like from a Google search, I looked at Vancouver and I'm like, this place looks amazing.
I believe the Twilight movies filmed there.
Yeah, they definitely did some of it because it's what the Twilight films are. I think they're based in like Seattle. That's where they were supposed to be, and they do tons of filming in Vancouver. And Vancouver is a really good city. You can film it to make it look like so many different cities, depending on like where you go.
Oh,
so it's really easy to like, you can make it look like New York, or you can make it look like Seattle, or you can make it look like Europe, or it's a really popular spot for that kind of stuff. Yeah.
I mean, well, apparently,
go out there.
Danny, we don't have to go over there. Apparently, Tulsa, Oklahoma is paying people to move there.
I never plan on leaving Miami. I flirted with the idea over the last couple of months, but I've decided I'm not leaving Miami. I'm gonna just live in a 10 by 10 efficiency with my 3 kids and my wife. I don't care.
It's a disaster down here. Don't come here, Samuel. Don't come, Sam. It's a mess
up there also.
Not Miami expensive, but I imagine it is.
It might be. Only over here I could walk out in shorts literally 12 months a year.
Good job there, buddy.
Yeah, hey, I don't like wearing pants. All right. We appreciate everybody hanging out with us. We're going to get on to the battered MLS fans in like 2 or 3 minutes. We're going to start there, do the recap of match day 10, talk about how Vancouver rotated their schedule, but they were able to hold on to the 3-1 lead, unlike Miami that gave up their 3-1 lead. So, Chris, any final words?
The Knicks are losing, man. I'm getting sad. And then we play Vancouver tomorrow. This is not a good. It's not going to be a good 24 hours for me.
All right. Well, if you're listening on audio, appreciate you listening all the way to the end. Please leave us 5 stars, comment, review, all that good stuff. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you for watching all the way to the end. Please like, subscribe, share, tell your friends. And for those of you in the chat, as always, you guys are the best part of the show. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us for the last hour and 5 minutes. And we will be back tomorrow for the post game. And if you got nothing else going on in the next couple minutes, jump on to Battered MLS Fans. We'll be talking about the league overall and the 15 games that went by. So until the next one, have a good one.
Just gonna leave that.